Good evening and welcome back. I'm Amma Dates.
And I'm Dan Ashley. Polls have closed in California about an hour now. Local results are coming in, and you can see those numbers at the bottom of your screen.
And voter turnout has been strong today. For more on that, let's go live to ABC 7 News reporter Cornell Bernard, who is in Oakland. Cornell.
Yeah, Dan, no official numbers from Alameda County just yet, but check out the very long line of folks still waiting to vote here at the registrar's office in downtown Oakland. Several hundred people got in line before the doors closed at 8 p.m. Lots of people doing same-day registration, something new in California. And outside, there was a very long line of cars for drive-through ballot drop-off near Lake Merritt. Many voters got off early, and they got in their cars and came down here as fast as they could. So you're cutting it close here. Polls are about to close.
I know. We had to rush down here so we can make sure that we put our ballots in.
I have a candidate in the race, and I believe he's going to win, and I'm looking forward to the future.
Alameda County has 682 polling places. The Registrar of Voters says despite lots of changes and an early primary this year, things are going pretty well. We're live in Oakland, Cornell Bernard, ABC 7 News.
All right. Cornell, thank you.
Well, the network will continue its coverage of this primary election in just a moment.
Yes, our local coverage. We'll switch over right now to a special digital newscast on abc7news.com.
Now, for now, let's look at Prop 13. It's the only statewide ballot today, a $15 billion bond for public schools from K-12 all the way through four-year universities to improve buildings or to construct new ones.
And right now you see 57% of the vote is no, 43% yes.
In Alameda County, voters are voting on Measure C. Measure C would increase the Alameda County sales tax by 0.5% for 20 years and raise an estimated $150 million per year. Yes has 56%. And thank you for joining us on the web. Dan Ashley along with Amma Dates from ABC 7 News. Glad you're with us.
Yes, this is our Super Tuesday. Voters in 14 states, including California, and one U.S. territory headed to the polls today. More than 1,300 delegates are at stake.
In California, the polls closed just about an hour ago. We have a running ticker of key races and their results on the bottom of your screen. We'll continue to update as we get more data for you.
That's right, and we also have a team of experts here to talk all things turnout and delegates and what this all means for November. Yeah,
the two big stories tonight, Joe Biden's surge across the country on this Super Tuesday and turnout here in California.
Yeah, so if we can, let's take a look at the results because we want to see this here in the Democratic presidential primary. We were hoping to get these results up for you, and our screen needs to change so we can see it and we can tell you what's happening at home.
Right. This is, Kurt, if you can switch us over, we're still in ABC programming on our monitors, so we can't see the results.
Here we go, 28% Bernie Sanders right now. The AP had projected him as winning the state, and you can see he has 28% of the vote with 3% of the precincts reporting. Bloomberg actually coming in second, 19%.
That's right. This is what the Democratic presidential primary section of the ballot looked like today. And again, a very big night for Bernie Sanders in California.
That's right. Now, all the candidates were on this, even those who have dropped out. So people also voted by mail. That's why you're seeing all the names of those candidates. Now, those votes for the people who dropped out, they do still count. The director of San Francisco's Department of Elections says just because someone has stopped their campaign, they are still an eligible candidate. So if they happen to get the highest number of votes, it would still count.
Joe Biden is projected to have led in the most states tonight: Alabama, Arkansas, Massachusetts, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Tennessee, and Virginia so far. Along with California, Sanders is projected to lead in Colorado, Utah, and Vermont.
And Michael Bloomberg led in American Samoa. Some states, though, still haven't been called, Maine and Texas. So let's take a look at estimated delegate counts. Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden pretty close. Everyone else fewer than 30.
Keep in mind there are 415 delegates up for grabs in California, and it takes just over 1,900 delegates across the country in order to win the nomination. Here's a look at the Republican presidential primary. No drama going on in the Republican race, of course. Donald Trump, 93% of the vote in the Republican primary, 4% of the precincts reporting again. It's a foregone conclusion.
Now, across California, voters are only deciding on one statewide proposition, that is Prop 13, a $15 billion bond for public schools from K through 12 all the way through four-year universities to improve buildings or to construct new ones. And right now, you see 43% of voters are voting yes for that, with 2% of the precincts reporting.
All right, and now let's get over to ABC 7 News anchor Kristen Z and our panel of experts for a closer look at the voting breakdowns today.
Yes, Kristen's joined by our Chasing California team, ABC 7 News contributor Phil Matier and ABC 7 News anchor Liz Kreutz.
Boy, what an interesting night it has been. Lots of surprises. What a night for Joe Biden. That is the big story. I want to just go ahead, you guys, Phil and Liz, by showing you, even though Joe Biden is having a big night across the country, winning some states that he wasn't expected to win in, here in California, he is currently running third. Take a look at this. Purple, that's all Bernie Sanders. You can see he is running very strong here. You can see brown. You think that's Biden? Nope, it is actually Michael Bloomberg, who is doing pretty well in the North Bay areas. Take a look, this region right there, we're talking about Marin County, Napa, Sonoma, and Lake County. So he's doing pretty well there. In green, there you have Joe Biden. He is winning in Solano County right now, and also a couple of counties more inland, Alpine and Amador. So let's break this down. Is Joe Biden underperforming in California, or is he still doing better than anyone expected, given he hardly spent any time campaigning here? And though Bernie is winning, including many of the counties in which Hillary Clinton won in 2016, is that number still lower, the margin lower than what people were expecting for California?
Yeah, I think Phil and I were probably both thinking about the same thing, that we're seeing Bloomberg doing sort of, number two in the polls right now there because of all the early voting. That's what we're getting right now. And I think we're still waiting to get results from these last minute, probably Biden voters.
Well, let's take a look at it. The polls just about a week or two ago, going into this, had Bernie Sanders in the 30s and everybody else under 15.
Right.
Now, that would have dramatically changed the map. That would have had Bernie Sanders the winner in California, because you had to get 15% of the vote just to qualify.
Right.
And there was a question whether Joe Biden or Michael Bloomberg or Elizabeth Warren were even going to be in the running. Tonight, we're turning around and seeing, rather than Bernie Sanders possibly carrying the state's delegates, he's going to have to split that pie up. Bloomberg is in the race. Biden is over 15. Elizabeth Warren is under. Buttigieg, all the rest. So one conclusion, it's a divided state, it's a divided party, it's a divided race. There's not a winner-take-all state involved in here. Everybody's going to take a portion. So Bernie's going to lead in California. He's going to lead in Utah. Texas he might lead in. Biden will lead in North Carolina. He'll lead in Massachusetts and other places. But nobody's going to be an out-and-out winner.
Yeah, but one thing we do know is this is a good night for Biden, an unexpected win, seeing him win Massachusetts, Elizabeth Warren's state.
And Minnesota.
And Minnesota.
But wait, let's back that one up a little bit. Massachusetts, that's Elizabeth Warren's home state.
Yeah.
It's also right next door to who else?
Bernie Sanders. That's
right.
So
this is an unexpectedly good night for Joe Biden.
So he goes on top of both of them. The one that's hurt tonight is Elizabeth Warren.
She came in third in her home state.
Right.
That's
So
gotta be devastating and
that's
reassessment
cold water.
of whether
That's
she
cold
gets out
water.
how
Reminder,
quickly.
Kamala Harris got out of the race way early before that happened to her here in California.
Yeah. Another number that was eye-opening, I guess, is how many of the late deciders broke for Biden. Right. It's something like close to 50%. What does that tell you with regard to, what South Carolina did for Joe Biden?
Well, in California, you have to understand that Bernie Sanders has been running for 6 years here. Liz, you've done the reports on Bernie Sanders and his operation, his ground operation, all through the state. The areas, you even traveled down into those areas in the Central Valley where he's claiming a high turnout vote. Because he worked it for 6 years. Yeah. But his total is still less than he got 4 years ago with up against Hillary Clinton. So he pushed hard there. Biden had just a residual support. And a lot of people held back to see which way it was going, but without a campaign. That goes to show that Biden's a known product among Democrats, a known product. So known, Bernie's working it. The two leaders in the race are the people, like it or not, that are the older ones and that have been around for a long time.
Yeah, I agree. And I just want to point out, too, for all of you who are watching right now, we are streaming on Facebook Live right now on ABC7 Facebook page. If you want to leave your comments and questions for us, then we'd love to be able to answer them in real time here so we can sort of build a conversation with all of you guys as well. So that's on our Facebook page.
Yeah, and Liz, you went down to the Fresno area, the Central Valley, to talk about how Bernie spent so much time there courting, especially the Latino vote. And we're taking a look at these Central Valley areas. The county, Merced County, for example, 33% for Bernie Sanders, a real strong showing. San Joaquin County, pretty much all that area, his work there has paid off.
But let's also take a look. This is early returns, I understand, but let's take a look at how the field splits up. And you can see that the Democrats are in the throes of a really divided party situation. You have Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. You put those two numbers together and you're getting close. You're at 39%. You throw in maybe Andrew Yang or some of the others, and then you take the Bidens and the Buttigieg and the Bloombergs, and you've got a split 60-40 one way or the other. Which way is it going to go within the party? As opposed to Donald Trump, 93% of the Republicans are backing on Super Tuesday.
Their decision is so much easier, right, compared to the Democrats' decision. All right, let's go back to Dan and Amos for some more election results. Guy?
Great discussion, guys. Thanks so much.
Now, in the South Bay, some voters had to wait to cast their ballot.
Yeah, they found themselves in long lines. ABC 7 News reporter Amanda Del Castillo is live tonight at San Jose State with more on that. Amanda.
Yeah, for much of the day, the line extended outside of MLK Library here at San Jose State. But just a few moments ago, the last few voters were able to get inside, stay warm. That's awesome because there were some big changes across Santa Clara County today. If you noticed, your normal polling place was either unusually busy, perhaps unusually slow. It probably has a lot to do with the county's new voting system. Now, essentially, all registered voters got a vote by mail ballot and were able to vote at any polling location in the county, whichever location was most convenient for them. For many, that meant San Jose State. Now, the county confirms that this was the busiest location across the South Bay today. Also new, no party preference voters were able to request a crossover ballot to vote in the Democratic presidential primaries. Many voiced their opinions and their frustrations over this new system.
Then there's all this stuff with the crossover ballots going on here, and I was like, no, I'm going to go ahead and officially declare Democrat because I don't want there to be any confusion later. I don't want anybody to like flip things at the last minute like they did with the voting locations.
But the county says resources were available ahead of Super Tuesday. At San Jose State, many waited hours to vote. One woman told us 1 hour and 30 minutes, another 3 hours. Plenty of people were visibly frustrated, so we asked, why wait?
A lot of people have encouraged me to go and vote. I personally was not trying to vote because of the political climate, but I was like, I need to.
Now, the county says it anticipated a little bit of frustration considering a presidential election happens every 4 years. But now back out live to San Jose State. You can see the voters, all of whom have lined up before 8 o'clock tonight. They are inside. They are still going through the process. Again, they were able to vote as long as they lined up before 8 o'clock. I'm reporting live at San Jose State University. Amanda Del Castillo, ABC 7 News.
But quite the wait for some people. Thank you, Amanda.
Now, residents in Alameda County's District 13 are voting for a congressional representative tonight. The top two vote getters move on in November.
Yeah, the incumbent is Democrat Barbara Lee. So let's take a look. Hopefully we have those results for you. It's not quite coming up just
yet.
Here we go. Barbara Lee, 86% of the vote. Nikki Peterman with 14% of the vote right now.
All right, in Alameda County, voters are deciding on Measure C. That measure would increase the Alameda County sales tax by 0.5% for 20 years and raise an estimated $150 million per year.
80% of the money collected would go toward child care, preschool, and early education. The remaining 20% would go to pediatric health care.
Now, at this moment, 56% of the vote voting yes on Measure C.
Now, residents near Berkeley Unified School District are voting on Measure E, an educator recruitment and retention tax. It's a new parcel tax to raise $10 million a year for all staff salaries.
Now, most of the revenue would go to compensating teachers and some staff. 5% would be used to recruit hard-to-hire teachers. This requires 2/3 majority to win. It's getting close to that point. 74% say yes to Measure E in Alameda County at this moment.
In Oakland, voters are deciding on Measure Q. It's a $148 parcel tax on single-family homes that would raise $21 million to help fund homeless services as well as park upgrades. You can see 61% of the vote is yes right now, 39% no.
And again, it takes 2/3 of the vote there as well. Residents in Contra Costa County District 9 are voting for a congressional representative. The top 2 vote getters move on in November. The incumbent is Democrat Jerry McNerney. He has 55% of the vote. His closest competitor is William Martinek with 23% of the vote. Amador is close behind at 22% of the vote.
Residents in Contra Costa County District 11 are voting for a congressional representative. The top 2 vote getters move on to November. The incumbent is Democrat Mark DeSonia, and you can see he has 67% of the vote. Next is Nisha Sharma with 27%.
Contra Costa Measure J across the county. People are voting on whether to authorize the Contra Costa Transportation Authority to levy a half-cent sales tax for 35 years. The revenue would go to transportation and road projects. Measure J in Contra Costa County has 52% of those votes counted so far saying no to Measure J. 48% say yes.
In Danville, it's Measure Y. Residents are voting on. A yes vote supports authorizing the Maggie Preserve project, which creates some homes and leaves hundreds of acres of open space. The measure would also rezone the area from an agricultural preserve to a planned development district. 50-50 right now. Very
close, yeah. In Marin County, residents in District 2 are voting for a congressional representative. The top 2 vote getters move on to November. Top 2, keep in mind, the incumbent is Democrat Jared Huffman. He has a clear lead with 65% of the vote. The next candidate with the most votes is Dale Mensing, 23%. Again, these 2 would presumably, if this holds, go on to November.
Looking in Marin County, people are voting on Measure C. Measure C would approve a 10-cent per building square foot tax for 10 years that would raise more than $19 million a year for wildfire prevention measures. And you can see right now, 22,364 over just under 13,000. So the vote is yes at this point, but you need 2/3 majority.
All right, in Marin County, people are voting on Measure D. Also staying there for a moment. The next step in a years-long saga over San Geronimo Valley Golf Course. They've battled over this for quite some time. Measure D would amend plans to require voter approval for any change in the primary golf course use and require the county prepare economic and environmental analysis of any proposed change. So far, no on Measure D in Marin County has 19,800 plus votes.
All right, so let's get back to our esteemed panelists tonight.
They are an esteemed panel, quite distinguished.
All right.
I don't know if we're esteemed, but we're panelists.
We're here, guys. We're here. We're excited to break it all down. It's such an exciting night, and I want to introduce, you might notice we have a 4th person joining us now, Christian Orana with the Latino Community Foundation.
Who is esteemed?
Esteemed as well. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Let's talk about the Latino vote.
Sure.
Overwhelmingly here in California going for Bernie Sanders.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we knew going into this election that there were 7.9 million eligible Latino voters in this state. To understand the Latino vote in California, you have to understand that this is a young population, right? CNN projected about an hour ago that 84% of Latinos under 30 years old were going towards Bernie Sanders. We already knew Bernie Sanders was going to win California, but it's just a question of by how much. And if young Latinos in particular are turning out to vote in historic numbers for this March primary, you know, that could help in terms of the delegate count for Senator Sanders.
Sure, but it does seem like that Biden has equal Sanders appeal with young Latinos, with blacks, and also with women and suburbanites, right? We're seeing that kind of playing out for him.
No, absolutely. I mean, we actually commissioned a poll not too long ago that showed that actually older Latino voters are supporting Vice President Joe Biden.
And so,
it's a generational divide. But again, it's just a question of, you know, if young Latinos are turning out to vote, obviously they're going to trend towards Bernie Sanders because he's actually put in the time to invest in earning their votes. And the map that you showed earlier today, earlier in the segment, was the Central Valley was Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, let's take a quick look.
And the Central Valley was an area that we know Bernie Sanders has really been targeting this cycle.
Right.
He has a campaign office in Fresno and Bakersfield.
Right.
He's been campaigning in those areas that are often ignored. We've been talking about
Exactly.
this. But he didn't do so well in the Central Valley in 2016, so it seems like it's lessons learned in a way from 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also we're talking about Bernie's not doing the numbers he did 4 years ago either. When it was up against Hillary Clinton, we were talking about a 45-50 split. His numbers were big then.
Sure.
What is he? Is he having to reach into a new crowd?
Yeah, this is Fresno right there.
For example, he's at 27.5. Biden's at 21. So that's a split. That's not, nobody's walking away with it.
Are you surprised by that?
Well, no. So I hate to jump to the conclusions because we knew that counting all the votes in California was going to be a long and arduous process to begin with, right? We're seeing reports on Twitter that there are students still in line voting in places like the Central Valley, like Orange County. I know the Sanders campaign actually just filed an injunction in LA County to keep the polls open till 10 p.m. So, I would like to provide more analysis to numbers like that, but we know that this is going to be a very long process in counting each votes. So, hopefully in about 2 weeks' time, we'll have a better idea of whether or not there was a split of the Latino vote.
Can we talk about another big Latino state, Texas?
Sure.
And there we're seeing some surprising results where Biden, or it's not called yet, but Biden is actually maybe holding on to a slight lead, which is shocking to people going into Super Tuesday that he could be not only competitive, but maybe even edging out Sanders in Texas. And that's another big Latino state. Why is the dynamic different there?
Well, yeah, traditionally, I mean, Texas and California have a different set of politics. And so in Texas, you find a little bit more conservative Latinos. But then at the same time, something that our two states have in common is that we have a lot of young Latinos who are eligible to vote. So again, the question is, are they going to come out to vote in Texas and also in California?
And we won't know the actual vote turnout for a while because right now but we'll question Bernie Sanders. He's been courting the Latino vote in California and in Texas, but I don't see the Latino candidates. I don't see the young Latino candidates on any kind of like platform or slate or let's all come together. It's about Bernie, but I don't see. I might be missing something, but I don't see like county supervisors even here in the Bay Area where we don't see sort of like join with me and Christian here.
No, absolutely. I mean, but we did have a Latino candidate. His name was Julian Castro.
Right, and the last time I looked, he was at 0.27.
Why do you think that?
What happened there?
Well, there were a lot of diehard Julian Castro fans here in the state of California. Obviously, it was more of a symbolic vote to show that somebody like him could have support. I mean, obviously, we want more Latinos to be running across all levels of elected office, but the Central Valley in particular. There were a lot of young Latino elected officials that endorsed Senator Sanders. So I'm thinking about Councilwoman Jewel Hurtado from a small city called Kingsburg, California. Brian Osorio, who literally graduated UC Berkeley about 2 years ago, is now the youngest Latino city councilman in the city of Delano.
And that is when the grooming begins, right? You begin at the city council, at the school boards, and then eventually, I don't know, 16 years from now.
Why didn't Julian Castro set fire? Why? Why not?
So there are multiple reasons to that. So obviously, it takes money to spread your message, right? He barely got any traction in terms of the actual dollars that he was able to fundraise. Obviously, you're looking at the Michael Bloomberg numbers. He spent a lot of money into California, in ads, in mailers. So, that is a very easy solution to get out the vote in terms of building your campaign exposure to Latinos. But also at the same time, it's polling, right? There were very few polling of Latinos. Our foundation actually did 2 polls of California Latino voters. And so, if California was actually the first state to go first other than Iowa and New Hampshire, maybe Julian Castro would have had a bump in the polls and probably made the debate stage.
The split in the community, you said generational.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a cultural split as well, values-wise?
Yeah, I mean, if you talk to my own family, my conversations with my dad and my mom, the words decency come out a lot. And when you look at which of the candidates actually making those types of words, it's people like Mayor Pete, Joe Biden, Amy Klobuchar. I'm sure my parents are watching right now. They ultimately decided to vote for Bernie Sanders. And so Part of the reason why that was is because at the end of the day, my parents did not want a moderate to become president, even though they aligned themselves with the values of someone like Joe Biden or Amy Klobuchar.
Do you think that, I think the Democratic Party often thinks of the Latino voting bloc as sort of one entity and that it's very sort of like automatically going to vote Democratic. But I think we saw in 2016 that actually it can also be a quite conservative voting bloc, or a portion of it can be.
Yeah, and historically, the Central Valley has been that.
Right.
Also, the Inland Empire.
So come November, it could be a different equation.
Well, absolutely. I mean, and it's a testament to the Sanders campaign, the fact that he actually went deep into the Central Valley to actually try to earn the votes of those young Latinos in particular, who were largely responsible for helping overturn these congressional elections back during the 2018 midterms. And so looking ahead, even past the March 3rd primary, whoever actually does become the nominee, I hope that whatever, whoever the nominee is, that they actually come back to California to do campaigning other than just raising cash for their campaign, but to help, those members running in Congress.
Flip it just a little bit and talk about the Latino community and the Republican Party. Okay, are they active there? What did your polling find there?
Yeah, so it's interesting because 17% of registered Latinos actually identify as Republicans. And I was only 6 years old at the time, but when Proposition 187 happened, that was effectively the end of Latino support for the Republican Party. Back then, Governor Pete Wilson said, we're going to ban social services like education and healthcare for Latinos and immigrants. And look what happened now 25 years later. Latinos became citizens, they registered to vote, they ran for office, and one can now effectively say that Latinos are in charge of California politics across all levels of government. And so if the Republican Party continues to have this kind of rhetoric of anti-Latino, anti-immigrant, it's going to be very difficult for the Republican Party to ever win the Latino vote in California again.
What is the demographic breakdown right now in California? Latinos, what, 38%?
Yeah, 39% of the population.
What's the voting?
Yes. So 1 in 4 California voters is Latino.
And what's the turnout?
So the turnout currently, or?
Yeah, in general.
So historically, it's been under 50%. Yeah,
right. It's been an underperforming group.
Right, but a large part of why that is because voter registration needs to go up. If you want more Latino voter turnout, you just need more Latino registered voters. Just simple math.
Yeah. All right, we are going to go back to Dan and Amma with some more election results, and then we'll come back in a little bit to continue the conversation. Thank you so much, Christian.
Thank you.
Okay, terrific conversation. We appreciate all 4 of you. Thank you so much.
And of course, we've been keeping tabs on what's going on with the Democratic Party and the elections today on this Super Tuesday and trying to find out. I believe we still haven't heard from Texas and Maine.
Yeah, Bernie Sanders polling ahead in Texas so far, and in California as well, declared the winner in California. California, the biggest prize in terms of delegates, 415 delegates, 1,991 or so needed to win the nomination. So this has been a big night, actually, for both of them.
Yeah, and people here in California are still trying to vote. People had been in line at 8 o'clock when the polls closed, and once
you're still in line now,
they're going to let you vote. So people are still trying to make sure that their vote is counted.
All right, we are going to pause our digital newscast. It's going to continue in a moment, but we're going to pause for a second while we do a live update on television over on ABC 7. You can watch that right here and on Channel 7.
Good evening again. I'm Amma Dates.
And I'm Dan Ashley. We have a running ticker of key races and the results on the bottom of your screen. We'll continue to update it as we get more data on this very interesting Super Tuesday.
Yes, let's get a look at local results from today's California primary. Of course, the big thing we've been talking about, the Democratic presidential primary, 29% right now for Sanders, with actually Bloomberg coming in second. We had seen Biden kind of get a surge across the country today on the Super Tuesday with 14 states, but right now he has 17% in California, coming in third.
Yeah, interesting night. It's been a great night for Biden across the country, but Bloomberg, of course, has spent $500 million. That may be paying off for him big time here in California. Across California, voters are only deciding on one statewide proposition. That's Prop 13, a $15 billion bond for public schools from K-12 all the way through four-year universities to improve buildings or to construct new ones. Again, this is the statewide Proposition 13, 58% with 8% of the precincts reporting now saying no to Prop 13.
And as you can imagine, people on both sides of the aisle, both parties are gathered together to watch results come in.
Yeah, it's really a very interesting evening, no matter what side of the aisle you're on. ABC 7 News reporter Kate Larson is live at a Democratic watch party in San Mateo tonight. Kate?
Well, Dan, we are here at the San Mateo County Democrats Watch Party, and all of the folks that are here are very much ingrained in the establishment of California Democratic Party, and they're all voting for different candidates. In fact, I'm told that we are in the IBEW hall, and even the union members are split between Sanders and Biden, and I'm told that the Young Dems, the establishment's younger members, are split between Warren and Biden. So I've spoken to some of the folks here about what they think needs to happen as the Democrats make a nomination.
You know, I started out a big Kamala Harris fan, and I've always been a Joe Biden fan. I've had the pleasure of meeting him several times. I'm currently backing Elizabeth Warren, but I'm voting blue no matter who in November.
I've been surprised to hear in my groups of friends that I thought were maybe more progressive, just kind of shift more towards the moderate candidate, Biden, because they see him as the one that could win states like Florida and Michigan to be Donald Trump.
Regardless of who the Democratic nominee is, if we don't flip that, if we don't flip the Senate blue and we don't keep the House blue, it doesn't matter. Nobody can pass the legislation, whether it's climate change or immigration reform or health care.
So the Democrats still have a long road to go, and there's also still a long road in terms of counting all of the ballots, which will be coming in and being counted for weeks, particular because there are so many vote-by-mail ballots, especially in counties like here in San Mateo, so that could truly impact the delegate count as the weeks go on. Live in San Mateo, I'm Kate Larson, ABC 7 News.
Thank you. Thank you, Kate.
Well, it has been a pretty good night for Joe Biden. He has picked up several states. He stopped by a rally tonight in Los Angeles and delivered a fiery address.
Yes, we will get to that in just a moment. But first, Republicans are gathering in San Francisco to watch the results come in.
Yeah, ABC 7 News reporter Lauren Martinez is live at the Waterfront restaurant along the Embarcadero. Lauren?
Dan and Amma, there's a pretty good crowd here at the San Francisco Republican Party here at the Waterfront restaurant. You know, members tell me they're keeping a close eye on the congressional race with their chair, John Dennis, running against incumbent Nancy Pelosi. You know, Executive Director Clint Grease tells me it's the second place that they're fighting for. He says Pelosi has been absent about speaking on issues that matter to San Franciscans, like homelessness and street conditions. He says she's focused on national issues like impeachment. He also adds that the San Francisco Republican Party has also seen an increase in membership.
San Franciscans are looking for an alternative. No problem in San Francisco can be blamed on a Republican because we've had decades of administrations in San Francisco exclusively from one party, the Democratic Party, and people are starting to put two and two together.
Today's event is sold out, but if you still like to come, you're more than welcome to show up and show support. Reporting live in San Francisco, Lauren Martinez, ABC 7 News.
Thank you, Lauren.
All right, we are continuing to keep you updated here back to our digital broadcast and keep you updated there.
That's right, and we have all the latest information for you, sending out push alerts on abc7news.com. And as you mentioned, our Jory Rand is in Los Angeles this evening following Biden.
Yeah, Joe Biden really gave a very fiery speech after a very good day on this Super Tuesday, and he has more from Los Angeles. Jory.
Yeah, Dan and Amma, this was basically a victory speech, despite the fact that Joe Biden is not going to win in California tonight. And demographically, he decided to hold it here in Baldwin Hills at the Recreation Center. They've broken down the stage, they've broken down the risers for the media, and I think you can hear some work happening behind us here as they break things down. But demographically, this is a neighborhood that is right in Joe Biden's wheelhouse, more than 70% black. And if you look at a map, it's just off of Obama Boulevard. So an appropriate place for him to hold this rally here tonight. Again, not a victory speech, but when you look at what he did elsewhere in the country, he thinks this night is a victory for him. You look at the states he took. Virginia, more than 50% of the vote in a state where he trailed in the polls just 3 or 4 days ago. Same thing with North Carolina. Trailed Bernie Sanders there, took that state. One in Massachusetts, home to Elizabeth Warren, who is still in the race, won there. One Minnesota, where just 3 days ago, before Amy Klobuchar dropped out, was in single digits in in Minnesota. He won there as well once Klobuchar dropped out and endorsed him. So this was a victory for Joe Biden tonight, despite the fact he's going to drop this big state in California, but still planning to pick up delegates. Take a listen to what Joe Biden had to say a short time ago.
We're literally in a battle for the soul of America. Folks, winning means uniting America, not sowing seeds of division and anger and hate. We got to beat Donald Trump, and we will, but we can't become like him. We can't have a never-ending war between the parties. We need a president who can fight, but make no mistake about I can fight. But look, we need as badly, someone who can heal.
And the night nearly marred when a pair of animal rights activists jumped on stage behind Joe Biden and nearly reached him. The first one was carried off stage. A second woman climbed up onto the riser behind Joe Biden, and Biden's wife, Dr. Jill Biden, was one of those who physically put herself between that woman and Joe Biden. She never got any closer than that, but certainly a lapse in the security detail, something that will surely be addressed moving forward and be changed. But again, they didn't reach Joe Biden, and overall for the night, a victory for him. He was able to quickly return seconds later back to his speech. And again, considering it on the night, a victory speech, but we're still awaiting full results from California, where Joe Biden looks to place third or second, maybe behind Michael Bloomberg as well. We are reporting live in the Baldwin Hills neighborhood of Los Angeles. Jory Rand, ABC 7 News.
Okay, Jory, thank you so much. But a big surge for Joe Biden after the win in South Carolina. He did unexpectedly well in some people's minds across the country today.
Absolutely. Now, this is the first time in a long time California voters actually counted on Super Tuesday.
Yeah, big time. ABC 7 News reporter Kate Larson is at a Democratic watch party in San Francisco with that part of the story tonight. Kate?
Absolutely, and everyone, no matter which candidate they support, are very excited about voting early. It's been years since California voted this early in a primary, so folks are excited to really make sure that their votes count in this election, and we've seen that with long lines in voter turnout. Now here, we are at the San Mateo County Democratic Party Watch Party. This is a branch of California's official Democratic Party, so they're not endorsing any one candidate in particular. I've been speaking to everyone here tonight, and they truly are supporting all of the different candidates that are on the ballot. So I spoke to them about what needs to happen in the Democratic Party to unite everyone's votes once we get past this primary season. And it's going to be tough because I'm hearing that young Dems are supporting a split between Warren and Sanders. We're in the IBEW hall, and I'm hearing that union members are split between Biden and Sanders. So here's what everyone here had to say tonight.
A lot of our construction members like Bernie Sanders, but our international in Washington, D.C. Endorsed Joe Biden. So there's a lot of bickering amongst our members between Biden and Sanders.
In the young Dems, I certainly see a trend among people supporting Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders.
You know, I started out a big Kamala Harris fan, and I've always been a Joe Biden fan. I've had the pleasure of meeting him several times. I'm currently backing Elizabeth Warren, but I'm voting blue no matter who in November.
I've been surprised to hear in my groups of friends that I thought were maybe more progressive, just kind of shift more towards the moderate candidate, Biden, because they see him as the one that could win states like Florida and Michigan to beat Donald Trump. And I think that at the end, a lot of people made the decision not based on policy specifically, but more so who could beat Donald Trump.
Regardless of who the Democratic nominee is, if we don't flip that, if we don't flip the Senate blue and we don't keep the House blue, it doesn't matter. Nobody can pass the legislation, whether it's climate change or immigration reform or health care.
So there is clearly a lot of work still to be done about making sure that all of the Democrats coalesce together for a unified voice. The exciting part of all of this, though, is that Californians feel like they have a voice in this election for the first time in many years. What's happened in years past, 4 years ago, our primary wasn't until June. So essentially by that time, the nominees are sorted out. So California in years past has really been used as an ATM machines where candidates just go to raise money. Well, not this year because we're voting early and our vote, of course, counts. We know that we're projected to go for Bernie Sanders. However, with so many vote by mail ballots left to count, it's likely that that will go on for weeks and really could impact the delegate count. Live in San Mateo, I'm Kate Larson, ABC 7 News.
All right. Kate, thank you.
Yeah, something like 3.2 million ballots had already been cast by mail before we even got to this day in California. All right, let's get over now to ABC 7 News anchor Kristen C. and our panel of experts for a closer look at how the voting is breaking down.
Yeah, another guest.
Hey guys, yes, we're going to continue our discussion and break things down a little bit. This time, a little slightly different focus.
Different focus. We're joined down by John Dennis, chair of the San Francisco Republican Party, and also on the ballot. Some of you might recognize your name, obviously, on the ballot right now, running to unseat Nancy Pelosi in California's District 12 race. In fact, I have the results up right now. Currently, you're going to be on the ballot in the general if things go this way at 12.57% support. How are you feeling right now going into this?
I feel good. I think it's going to be a tight race. There's a lot more ballots to count, but I'm looking forward to to challenging Nancy Pelosi and having a discussion about where San Francisco should go over the next 7 months.
Right now, I'd like to shift over to the presidential. Okay. Look, 4 years ago, when Donald Trump was running, and the California primary was coming up, we were later, so it was pretty much decided. But a number of Republicans, what we'd call the Republican establishment in California, was shocked. They were saying this could be the end of our party. This is an incredible embarrassment. What are we going to do? That was a big tone. Tonight, he's talking about getting 93% of the Republican vote. What changed over those 4 years?
He did him. He went and he made promises that he kept. And all the concerns that people had about this sort of different approach for a president, somebody who is just a little more gruff and not what we thought of as presidential, all of those concerns have been assuaged because he did what he said he was going to do.
So, in other words, the style or the mannerisms or all the things that so many people were found offensive and shocking 4 years ago are off to the side now because he's delivering.
Oh, it's more than that. They've become beloved characteristics. They love it. People look forward to his tweets. They love his off-color jokes. They love his off-kilter comments and comedy. So look at the rallies. Look how many people show up for his rallies. They love him, and they're looking to do rallies in California for Donald Trump.
All right, well, looking at this November, take a look at the numbers in San Francisco. Bernie Sanders at 30% in San Francisco. Some would say that's underperforming for Sanders for a city that's as progressive as San Francisco. So even though he is going to win the state, as you saw tonight, Biden is showing surprising strength in so many states, starting to look like, it's a two-man race, and President Trump has been turning his attention back towards Biden. Very much, this is not the man President Trump wants to face. I mean, tonight's
who does he want?
Have got to have the Republican Party a little bit worried, right? Because you...
Worried? You think Donald Trump is worried?
Doesn't he want
well,
Sanders?
no, there's Donald Trump and then there's the Republican Party. Or are they one and the same now?
Oh, well, you just told me we had 93% of the vote in California. Donald Trump is leading the party. The party is firmly behind him. And I think Donald Trump isn't afraid of either of these two. I mean, both of them are really tough choices for the Democrats. If Joe Biden leads, Joe Biden is a walking gaffe machine. He can't, all he does is open his mouth to change feet.
Well, I heard that said about somebody 4 years ago. That person was Donald Trump. Everybody was saying he was a walking gaffe machine.
I think one thing.
No, I'm not trying to jump on Trump.
But they're two different things. There's a difference between having a different kind of style and being somebody who doesn't know where he is at any given day. I mean, the questions for Joe Biden is, what are your policies? It's where are you? He's out of it. I mean, I think he's showing signs of being elderly. I'm sorry to say it, but it's true, and it's a very difficult thing for Democrats to have to face. And there are other issues with Bernie Sanders.
I think one thing, though, that we're seeing is it's pretty remarkable how after a week ago we were seeing the Democratic Party fight and yell at each other on a debate stage, and within 24 hours, a huge portion of the party has come together to coalesce around Biden. Right. I think it shows that there's a lot of fear within the party that Trump is going to win another term. Does that give you a little pause, thinking there is enthusiasm among the Democrats to do whatever it takes to beat Trump?
Well, what I think is the people who I think have been given pause are the Democrats. I think most Democrats are terrified by Bernie Sanders being the defining person of the Democratic Party, because he wasn't a Democrat until very recently. He scares the heck out of these people. And the moderate Democrats are like, well, this is not my Democratic Party.
Okay, yeah, let's go back to the Trump. Okay. And we have Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Because we have a presidential race, but then we have Senate races.
Yeah.
And we have congressional races across the country. Now, if it's a Bernie Sanders, that's going to set one tone for the Democratic races. If it's a Joe Biden, that sets a different tone for the Democratic races. there's the Trump race, but what is the feeling about the other races? I mean, is Trump going to, is he seen as a benefit for Senate seats? Is he seen as a benefit for House seats? Because they didn't do too well in the 18 race. So how does Donald Trump play against this Democratic Party that might be gaining momentum on the Senate and the House?
It's very common for presidents to lose the House halfway through their first term. That's not unusual. But if you look at who Donald Trump has backed, they've won. And the people who have eschewed him, pushed him off, they're the people who have lost. So I think Donald Trump is going to be a great salesman for the Senate. I have to say, I think back to 2010 when the Republicans took back the House with the 63 House seat gain. I think we're looking at something similar in the House this year because of Donald Trump's tailwind.
Well, I mean, pundits say that is one of the reasons that the Democrats needed to come together, right? Klobuchar, Buttigieg, Steyer, everybody stepping aside so that you could have Biden, someone who is going to help as opposed to hurt the down ballot races, the House race that you're involved in, the Senate races. So does Biden showing so well tonight and gaining momentum cause worry to you and other Republicans going for the House and Senate? Because that's a very different game than if you were having someone like Sanders at the top of the ticket, right?
Well, I think Bernie Sanders challenges Donald Trump more meaningfully in the Rust Belt states. He talks about the same issues that Donald Trump does. He just offers a bigger government solution to the issues that people care about there. Biden has trouble in other states. He's stronger than Bernie Sanders is with the African American community, and that's actually important because Donald Trump, believe it or not, is gaining in African American community and the Latino community as well. So I just think that when Donald Trump is standing next to Joe Biden, the glare of the presidential lights is going to be very difficult for Joe Biden.
I know that you're pretty confident that President Trump is going to win a second term, but if you had to pick who you would least want him to go up against, who would that be?
Oh, I don't think it's 6 of one, half dozen the other. I love answering questions, but that's not a question that's really that meaningful.
You're that confident.
Yeah, no, and it's not only that, but they also bring some strengths, but a lot of weaknesses to the game.
Some say that he saves his biggest digs for people who he's afraid to go up against, such as Mini Mike or what he calls Mike Bloomberg, or now he's coming out against Biden. He hasn't said much negative about Sanders, right?
In fact, he's going on Twitter right now saying it's a coup.
How unfair it's been for us.
Right. What are your thoughts on kind of what we've seen the past 48 hours?
Is the Democrat National Committee putting the fix in?
Well, just one question to answer. Donald Trump does refer to him as Crazy Bernie, so he hasn't been left out of the nickname club. But I think that he's pushing for Bernie because I think he realizes that when Bernie is on the top of the ticket, that he's more likely to get back the House.
So there is a difference on that.
Sure, on that front, absolutely.
So then, in that sense, tonight may not be a great night for the Republican Party. Just looking at what's happening in the Democratic primary.
I have to say, I'm very sanguine about the prospects of the Republican Party in 2020 across the board.
In terms of we're happy about the state of the Republican Party across the country. What happens when it crosses from Nevada into California? Because you guys aren't doing all that well in this state. Is Trump helping you in California? Do you foresee any gains in California as a result of a Democratic lineup like this?
I think Donald Trump is breaking through. I'll give you one data point. So I became the chairman of the San Francisco Republican Party in July of last year. San Francisco Republican registration is up. Not a huge amount, but consistently and a meaningful up. So, and I think part of that has to do with the fact that Donald Trump is even becoming popular, in some ways breaking through the media wall, even in San Francisco.
All right. Well, it's been an interesting conversation. John Dennis, thank you so much. I should just point out that we only have one county outstanding in terms of the AP projection, and that's Butte County, still in gray. Otherwise, you can see it's pretty much all gone Bernie Sanders' way. But despite winning all those counties, the numbers maybe not quite as big as he had hoped, 28.76%.
Right, because that is a lead. That's not a win.
That is true. And many people were projecting, over
every one of those counties is going to get split up. There's a good chance that they'll all be split up in terms of the delegates between Bloomberg, Joe Biden, and Bernie Sanders. And it's going to be the interesting thing is what happens come with Milwaukee. And they all come in with a certain group that we're seeing sort of split, a three-way split, or a possible four-way split. That's when it's going to get interesting, too.
All right. Thanks a lot. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Rama, back to you.
Great analysis of it all.
Yeah, thank you so much. We'll touch base again. Polls have been closed for well over an hour and 45 minutes or so. Voter turnout has been strong today, too.
Yes. ABC 7 News reporter Cornell Bernard is in Oakland for us tonight. Cornell.
Yeah, hey, hey, Dan. Yeah, it's been a very busy day here in Alameda County, and, you know, just about up until an hour ago, this room was full of voters who made it in just before the doors locked at 8 p.m., and the line to vote, perhaps register, same-day registration, was all the way down the hallway here. A couple of hundred people were standing in line. Everyone is gone. Now the votes are being counted, of course. Tim Dupuy is the Registrar of Voters here in Alameda County. Tim, I know we were talking earlier. It's been a very busy day. How would you describe voter turnout today in Alameda County?
It was very good. We saw a lot of people coming in. I think same-day registration certainly helped with that. It's an important election, and people came on in. We were happy with the results.
Do you have any numbers about how many people actually came out to the polls? And there was more than 600 polling places in Alameda County, right?
That's correct. And we have over 900,000 voters in Alameda County. So right now we're seeing a total of about 120,000 votes cast, but we're still bringing in the votes.
All right. And when will you know exactly how many people came out today? Will it be later tonight or tomorrow?
It'll be much later tonight. We'll be seeing the votes roll in throughout the night.
Okay. So many changes this year. An early primary, people can actually come to the polls, register to vote. Couldn't do that before. Was there any glitches, anything that didn't go according to plan today?
Things ran very well for us, and we're very happy with how things are turning out.
Okay. Sir, thank you so much. I'll let you go back to counting all the votes, I guess.
All right, thanks.
We were in Contra Costa County earlier tonight and at a polling place. Very busy. In fact, there was a very long line after 5 p.m., folks getting off work, coming down and voting. In fact, one polling supervisor said that it felt like a presidential election, felt like 2016 because there were so many people showing up. And by all accounts, everything went well at her polling place. We're live in Oakland tonight. Cornell Bernard, ABC 7 News.
That update.
All right, so let's give you some updated results just coming in now. In Marin and Sonoma counties, people are voting on a SMART tax. A yes vote on Measure I will authorize SMART to extend an existing tax through March 31st, 2059. Money would go to a variety of projects, including a potential expansion of rail service to Healdsburg and Cloverdale. Needs a 2/3 vote to win. At this moment, Measure I in Sonoma County, 52%.
In Contra Costa and Napa County, residents in District 5 are voting for a congressional representative. The top 2 vote getters move on to November. The incumbent is Democrat Mike Thompson, and you can see he has 66% of the vote right now, a good chunk of it, 3% for Jason Kishinev. Right now, the second place person is Scott Giblin with 25% of the vote.
Residents in Alameda and Contra Costa counties are voting for a congressional representative for District 15. The top 2 vote getters get to move on to November. The incumbent is Democrat Mark Eric Swalwell. Eric Swalwell, a familiar face to a lot of people in the Bay Area. As the incumbent, he has 55% of the vote. His closest challenger, Allison Hayden, with 23%. Again, the top 2 move on to November.
In Alameda and Santa Clara counties, residents are voting for a congressional representative for District 17. The top 2 vote getters, again, move on to November. The incumbent is Democrat Ro Khanna, who has 59% of the vote right now. Ritesh Tandon coming in at 29%. Second right now, 10% of the vote, Stephen Forbes, and Joe Den, 2%.
Residents in San Mateo and Santa Clara counties voting for a congressional representative in District 18. The top 2 vote getters again move on to November. The incumbent is Democrat Anna Eshoo. She has 62% of the vote, long-time incumbent. Anna Eshoo, closest challenger, has 14%.
In Napa County, people are voting on Measure K. If it passes, the county would impose a 1/4% special sales tax, with the revenue going to open space as well as parks. And right now, the yes vote is 59%, 41% voting no.
All right, in San Francisco, residents of District 12 are voting for a congressional representative. Once again, top 2 move on to November. The incumbent is Democrat Nancy Pelosi, current House Speaker, with 70% of the vote, longtime incumbent. The closest challenger is John Dennis, the Republican, 13% of the vote.
In San Francisco, residents of District 14 are voting for a congressional representative. The top two vote getters move on to November. The incumbent is Democrat Jackie Spear, who has 71% of the vote right now. Ron Patel, 22%. And then it goes to Christos Goudreau and then Eric Taylor.
Let's talk about Prop B. That's in San Francisco. People are voting on that today. If it passes, Prop B would authorize San Francisco to borrow more than $600 million by issuing general obligation bonds to pay for upgrades to the city's emergency response infrastructure. This, with 42% of the precincts supporting, has 80% of the vote. Prop B in San Francisco.
Looking in San Francisco, where people are voting on Prop D. If it passes, Prop D would levy a tax on storefronts vacant for more than 6 months. Supporters say it will motivate landlords to find tenants. 66% of the voters are voting yes at this point, 34% voting no. It needs a 2/3 vote.
We'll go to the next letter in the alphabet, Prop E in San Francisco. If it passes, Prop E will tie the amount of office space companies can build to how much affordable housing San Francisco builds, an effort to solve the housing crisis here. For example, if San Francisco builds only 25% of its affordable housing goal for a year, the next year it could build only 25% of its annual allocation of office space. That has 54% support, with 42% of the precincts reporting.
Now, there's one race we're keeping an eye on in San Mateo County. Foster City is voting to recall the Vice Mayor, Herb Perez. Pro-recall folks say it's because of some rude incidents involving constituents and because Perez is too pro-housing. Perez has countered that he's only approved one housing development during his 2 terms in office and told the San Mateo Daily Journal he holds liars accountable. And you can see right now for the recall, 77% of voters are voting yes, just 23% voting no.
Also in San Mateo County, voters near Jefferson Union High School District are deciding whether to allow the district to issue close to $28 million in bonds for school facilities projects. This needs 55% of the vote in order to pass. It's getting close to that threshold. Yes has 59% of the vote on Measure J.
Also in San Mateo County, voters are deciding on a $385 million bond for school facilities improvements in the San Mateo Union High School District. It's close right now, 51% voting yes, 49% no. It needs 55% of the vote to pass, though.
Let's go to Santa Clara County. Residents of District 17 voting for a congressional representative. The top 2 vote getters, once again, you get the idea, move on to November. The incumbent is Ro Khanna. He has 59% of the vote. The closest challenger is Ritesh Tandon with 29% of the vote.
Santa Clara County, residents of District 19 are voting for a congressional representative. Top 2 again. Vote getters move on to November. The incumbent is Democrat Zoe Lofgren, who has 59% of the vote right now. And then 2 with 15%. That one is close. Justin Aguilera and Ignacio Cruz, both 15%. Then Ivan Torres and Jason Mallory.
Santa Clara County residents of District 20 are voting for a congressional representative. The top 2 vote getters once again move on to November. The incumbent is Democrat Jimmy Panetta. He has 64% of the vote. Jeff Gorman has 27% of the vote. Adam Sco, a distant third, with 8% of the vote.
In Santa Clara County, people are voting on Measure B. If it passes, it will change how Sunnyvale residents elect city council members. Among other changes, instead of the whole city voting for all council members, the city would now do by-district elections. 62% of voters responding so far say yes, with 38% saying no.
Measure C is on the ballot in Santa Clara County. People deciding whether to reduce the number of council districts in the city of Santa Clara from 6 to 3. The proposal sparked pushback from a growing coalition of minority community groups that say fewer districts would disenfranchise residents from electing diverse candidates. But at this moment, Measure C has 60% support in Santa Clara County.
And also staying in Santa Clara County and San Jose, people are voting on Measure E. Measure E would enact a new property transfer tax on commercial, industrial, and residential properties worth at least $2 million. The revenue would go toward affordable housing, and it's relatively close at this point. 51% voting yes, 49% voting no.
Let's stay in Santa Clara County for another moment. Some residents are voting on Measure J there. Measure J is a bond measure for East Side Union High School District. It's designed to build 100 units of rental housing for teachers and staff because, of course, housing is tough on a teacher's salary. 52% say yes to Measure J in Santa Clara County. It's a close vote.
So let's move on now to Sonoma County. This is where people are voting on Measure G. A yes vote on Measure G will authorize the county to increase the sales tax rate 0.5%. Or half cent on each dollar countywide. Money goes to fire prevention as well as protection. 60% of voters are voting yes at this point, 40% voting no. 90% of precincts reporting, though, but it does need a 2/3 majority vote in order for Measure G to pass in Sonoma.
All right, just some of the results coming in tonight, and we'll continue to update these literally moment by moment as the votes get counted. In all of the races, local, regional, and of course the statewide ballot measure we're watching, and the presidential contest. But for the moment, we're going to leave you for a moment and continue over on ABC7 News.
Yes, so we appreciate you staying with us. You can always stay on abc7news.com or ABC7 News app for all the latest, or join us on ABC7, Channel 7 for the latest.
We appreciate your time as always. I'm Dan Ashley.
I'm Amma Dates.